Nick Marsh started his season with a touchdown against Western Michigan, and the broadcast started with a comparison. They had you on one side and Calvin Johnson on the other. What do you think about hearing and seeing that?
Man, that's crazy, actually. It's one of the people I look up to, man. I've been watching him since a kid, and, just to be compared to him is something crazy, man. It's a dream.
Well, you're 6'3", he's 6'4". There's like a difference of 7 pounds between you guys when you were sophomores. In what ways do you feel like you've maybe modeled your game after him, or you guys may be similar?
I mean, just the athleticism, really, just being a bigger body receiver that can move as fast as, smaller receivers, and guys that just smaller can move a lot quicker and faster, just being, a bigger size and being able to do that's pretty cool.
It's got to be crazy to think about, right? You're a Detroit guy, and when you're growing up playing football at River Rouge, you've said that football was just like a thing you did because it was something to do.
Yeah.
At what point do you realize this game could completely change the trajectory of your life and your family's life?
I had a couple conversations with a couple of different people, they just said, you got potential to, be a star one day, and, I started to think about the opportunities I could have for my family and myself, and, I started to take that to heart. I started to train even more, and just try to, apply everything in football to real life, and, got me pretty far so far. So, I want to keep doing that, keep amplifying that, and, keep doing the same thing.
I know real life, it's not always the glitz and the glamour of being on the football field.
Yeah.
There's some tough stuff growing up in Detroit, homeless. You got to rely on the people around you, and you got to have the faith and conviction in yourself to get through that.
Yeah.
In what ways did that shape not just you as the player, but who you are as a man?
I mean, just having to grow up fast, mature faster. That affected me a lot, and it affects the way I think now. It could be in a negative way or a positive way. It's all about how you respond. That was our message for the day in football. It's about how you respond. So you can be going through adversity, going through a lot of things, but it's always about the response. Being a man in the house at a young age, just happened to step up in some roles, man, and I've been doing it my whole life. So once I come out here to the football field, I just take that same role.
You got to have a connection with your people, especially on the football field. You and Nathan Childs, it was a lot of fun to watch when you were a freshman. And I think defenses realized you were that guy, especially towards the end of the year. So going through a little bit of adversity there, how does that strengthen the connection between you two for this year?
We know we got to connect when I get one-on-one coverage for sure. It's a lot, and that's just gonna make me so much better, just being able to, beat different coverages, beat the triple team, beat the double team. I think that's a part of the game, and just I'm really fortunate to, do that at a young age. I got time to develop, I got time to, actually master my craft, and, just to figure out how the defense plays. And, I think, this is the best time to figure it out.
When we look at ways this team gets better, one of the things that jumps out is the wide receiver room. 4 veteran transfers come in. How does that help you maybe get single coverage and open up things for this offense?
We got some guys that can move in the room, man. And, it's amazing coming out here, we see it in practice, the first few days of fall camp, we got a couple cover ones, and just seeing that everybody can roll, we can beat our guys one-on-one. So just having that help in the room, man, means a lot, even if I could, do something on my part to get someone else open, we're all about, selflessness, and, I think this room is going to be pretty good.